Can you recall fast what we have seen so far? What we have covered?
Sir, homeostasis.
Homeostasis. Before homeostasis?
So you just
Yes. Before that, what we have seen?
Types of systems.
Okay. Uh, okay, fine. Any other thing? Actually, we started with definitions. Then we have seen the step-by-step situations. That is, what are the or how the organization of body is there, or how the organism means from cellular or molecular level to organism level, isn't it? That we have seen. And when all this example, in a given organism there are several systems. In several systems there are several organs. In several organs there are certain tissues. In tissues there are various cells. In various cells again there are various chemicals like proteins, carbohydrate, etc. And at molecular level, this proteins, carbohydrates, etc., they are made of some carbons, protein, etc. Carbons, amines, phosphates. Okay. So this is how what we have seen various stages or various what we can say hierarchy, we can call it as a. Now then we have seen homeostasis. Now one more thing is that let me tell you very clearly. I told you we need to compare what you studied earlier. I have not received any feedback on this. Actually, I told you what you have studied, and you compare this with the syllabus you have at present. I have not received anything. This was an assignment which I have given, and I am really sorry to say that I have not received any feedback on that. This was expected long back. That is what you have studied, or you make the table like thing that this is the syllabus. Syllabus everybody must have got. It is there on website. I think BPharm student also received syllabus. MPharm syllabus is there on Pharmacy Council website. They can go through it. So syllabus, and you match what actually you have got. Okay. Now what we are planning to do is accordingly whatsoever topic which is not at all taught anywhere, that will give more details. But if any topic you have studied earlier, so basic will not give more time in that, and basic will expect that you learn all the basics which you have studied earlier. Example cell, example tissues, whatsoever you have learned earlier, please write about it, what you have learned, up to what level you have learned. I told about this, even I sent the message on PharmD group also. This is the book what I was telling. This student, one of this student have shared it. This is the fantastic book which we expect that you should read, or you should be using it. You are fortunate that nowadays these soft copies are available. In our times it was costing around 2,500. So you can imagine when our fees was around 1,000 rupees or so. At that time this book was costing around 2,500 or so, and we were getting it in somewhere second hand copy or like that in maybe 1,000 rupees, and like that we were using. But you are very fortunate that you are getting latest editions, and online everybody can have it. So that is the benefit you are having. Now next topic I will be going for. This is assignment still pending. I repeat, I remember it, even though we have got a big gap because of our administrative activity, but I remember what assignment I have given, and still what I am expecting. And be sure, we used to remember about assignments which are given, most of the teachers. So please do it, make that table, what you have studied so far, and how you match it with the this one, your syllabus, wherever it is there. Once we receive this, then I'll guide about the next course of action. Till then, we'll go for one topic which you might have not seen earlier, which is new and which is very important in some of the aspects. So this is what basic anatomical terminology. Terminology means how we use. It is not use up and down or left or right like that. So there are various typical words are used, and these typical words are commonly used, and these words should be known to us. This helps us in understanding the various anatomical positions, regions of the body, and basically wherever it is there, or if somebody can see the doctors noting, then they will realize that this type of words are actually used by doctor, in what position, where it is there. So you should be aware about this, you should be knowing this, that what kind of terminology are used. Now this is the anatomical position. The person is standing upright. So it is a standardized method of observing or imaging the body. So observing means direct observation, or if we receive any image, X-ray image or any other kind of image. So when this is in the anatomical position, that is subject is standing upright, facing the observer, the head level is there, eyes facing forward, the feet flat on the floor, arms are at the side, and the palms are turned forward. Okay, we'll call it as a ventral. We'll explain this term ventral and dorsal. So this is how the person is standing, and then whatsoever we describe, this is pertaining to this position. So this anatomical position, when the person is like this, then we have this kind of descriptions, or we'll describe it in this way. If the body is lying face down, then we'll call it as a prone position. If the body is lying face up, then we call it as a supine position. I hope you understood. Suppose somebody is sleeping, and sleeping with the back touching to the bed, then we call it as a supine position. Okay, face is up, back is down. And if it is reverse, then we'll call it as a prone position. Okay. So these words are there. What is prone, what is supine, you should be aware about it. Then various regional names are given for body for reference, and we'll discuss one by one. So see, when it is related, you can see this figure. Again, this book, if you have downloaded, in that everything you will get. You can simultaneously open the book if you wish, and you can see. I have got the presentation of same, maybe older, but we have got it. Now example of this is, suppose anything which is pertaining to head. Okay, we call it as a cephalic. Okay, because cephalus is a head. Okay, so inside the head, it is, we call it as a head. In head, if anything is there, we'll call it as a cranial. Inside the cranium, cranium means skull. Okay, so inside the anything skull it is there, we'll call it as a cranial. So we'll get various, now we call them as a cranial nerves. Okay, then if it is forehead, then we'll call it as a that is frontal, because there is a frontal lobe is present. Then if it is eye, then we'll call it as orbital. If it is ear, then we'll call as a otic. Then whatsoever neck related portion, we call it as cervical, because there is one bone, that is cervical bone, and pertaining to that we call it as a cervical area. So if you know, you will find that it is a, suppose there is a belt come for the people, we call it as a cervical collar, etc. If it is armpits, then we call it as a axillary. Okay. If the arms are there, outside that we call it as a brachial, because there is a brachial plexus of nose and all. Okay. Then like that, all these various tissues, on that basis the names are given. Okay. So cranial means skull, thoracic means chest, brachial means arm, patellar means knee, cephalic means head, gluteal, that is on the buttock, And this is terminology on the base of Greek or Latin root words. So everything is clear. Okay, back is a dorsal, the front one is ventral. We shall see again this directional again. Chest is a thoracic. In case of female, if the breast related thing is there, we call it as a mammary. And these are all words are there. Okay, these are words. These words are used as a regional names or area name, the part of the body that is described with these names. Then there are some terms we call them as a directional terms. Directional means where that particular is located from certain thing. If one thing is known, then suppose we say that from Aurangabad or inside from the college towards north there is a road, towards south what it is, toward east what is there, toward west it is there. So these are what we have got, we call it them as a directional terms. So these are the directional terms which are used to precisely locate one part of the body relative to another part. So because we have one thing is located here, what is college is located. Suppose we locate railway station, then we can say that from railway station where our college is. So that is relative to railway station. Okay. So similarly from various portion, now the college position will change, because at some places it can be north to something, it can be east to something, it can be west to something. So accordingly we will have, and we have got various terms like dorsal, superior, medial, distal. We shall see one by one. Okay. Now see, this is again this is the normal anatomical position in which person is there. Okay. Now we can see anything which is closer to the trunk, okay, the main body, then we'll call it as a proximal, and which is away from that, okay, see that arrow, we call it as a distal. Distal means this is the midline. Okay. So from that midline of the body, and this is the trunk portion, the where this chest and abdomen is there, then we call it as a trunk position. So there is a midline. From midline, anything which is near to this midline or near to the trunk, we'll call it as a proximal, which is away from that we'll call as a distal. Now on that basis, if this is a humerus, okay, so humerus is proximal to radius and ulna, radius and ulna are distal to humerus. This is how we describe. Okay, you are understanding this?
Yes, sir.
Then again, those which are close to midline we call them medial. Those which are close to the midline, which are near to the midline, we call it as a medial. And those which are away from this midline, we call them as a lateral. Okay. So anything which is sidewise, we'll call it as a lateral. Those which is in the center, we call it as a medial. This is clear?
Yes, sir.
Those which are upper portion, upper means the towards the cephalic or towards the head portion, we call it as a superior, and those which are downwards or to the lower side, we call them as a inferior. So here superior and inferior, they does not mean quality, they means the, what they mean is the location. Okay. Example, again here we'll take, this stomach is superior to what? Duodenum. Okay. And it is inferior to esophagus. You understood this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now stomach is inferior to esophagus but superior to duodenum. This is clear or not?
Clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So these are the directional terms. This is clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. These are the definitions of it. That is, superior means towards the head. Okay. These are the example. Eyes are superior to the mouth, or just now we have seen about what? Stomach and all. Inferior
Stomach.
means away from head. Stomach is inferior to heart, or stomach is inferior to what? Esophagus. Okay. These are the definition. Then next is a dorsal and ventral. Dorsal is also called as a posterior, ventral is also called as a anterior. Dorsal means at the back of the body. Example, the brain is posterior to the forehead, or cerebellum is posterior to, because cerebellum is after that, so cerebellum is posterior to brain. Okay. Ventral is anterior at the front of body. Sternum is anterior to heart because it is towards the front side. So we do not use back or front. Okay, we use word ventral or anterior. These terms are clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Medial I have already told, lateral already told. Thumb is on the lateral side of the hand. The heart lies medial to the lungs because heart is in between two lungs. So this is medial. I explain you. Proximal and distal I explain you. Nearer to the attachment of limb to the trunk. Okay, the knees is proximal to ankle. Distal already I explained you. Farther from the attachment of the limb to the trunk, so it is distal. So wrist is distal to elbow, or I explain you with the help of what? Bones, isn't it? Humerus and radius ulna, so, isn't it? So this is how this we can have. The next way is the planes. These are imaginarily flat surface. Example, this body we have kept like that, again upright in standing position, and we have got maybe suppose very big knife and we are cutting the body at various places. Okay, just like we know about, we say that is cross sections. So if we take this cross section and we pass this cross section, we cut it in portions. So if we make it, then what will be there and what we will call? So that particularly place where we are running our knife, it's a big knife. It is, see, suppose this is a glass like situations are there. You can see this glass. Okay. So these glass are there which are cutting through the body into that. Okay. From that there are two separations are there. Then these planes are cutting it, and accordingly we are getting something closer to that. So these are the imaginary flat surfaces. They are dividing the body, or almost we can say they are cutting it into definite areas. Now what are various planes? Again in figure you can see it. One is mid sagittal plane and parasagittal plane. Then frontal plane, transverse plane, that is cross sectional or horizontal plane. See here images you can see, the transverse is this. Okay. Then frontal is this, which is separating into this antral and ventral, or posterior and anterior. Okay. Then we have got the oblique plane which is cutting across, that is a cross is there. Mid sagittal is there which is cutting it in exactly center, making in body into two halves, left half and right half. Difference between mid sagittal and the mid sagittal plane and the frontal plane is what? Frontal divides it into anterior and posterior, that is front and back. Okay, these two pieces it is making, and transverse is making two half, that is upper and lower, or superior and inferior. Parasagittal, mid sagittal makes two halves, left and right. Parasagittal means not exactly in midline, it can be right side or it can be left side, but it is again same to sagittal. So these are various planes are there. Then sections are there. This flat surface when we are cutting, then they are named as per the plane as per it is cut. So we call it as, suppose when the body is cut into two pieces with transfer, then we will say that transverse section is there. If the body is cut into front half and back half, then we will call it as a frontal section. Okay. If it is cross plane was there which has cut body, then we will call it as a oblique one. So these are the various sections which are obtained after cutting the body. Okay. You can see it in a bigger one. This is a sagittal plane, this is the mid sagittal, okay, and this is the parasagittal one. So these are cutting body into left and half, right half. Okay, mid-sagittal produces equal half while parasagittal produces unequal half. Already I told you about it. Then next is frontal one, which is divided into anterior and posterior or front and back. Transverse divide into upper and lower, that is superior and inferior. Oblique is combination of two other plane, that is this type transverse and sagittal. If we combine, then it will become oblique plane. So these are various planes which are there. Okay, these are where they are used at, where planes are used when somebody has to describe it. Example, let us see, we will see the planes and sections of the brain. So when we cut this brain, this is what we know, this is half portion we are cutting, superior and inferior, we call it as a transfer plane. Then we shall see brain like this. Okay, then if we cut it like this, with frontal plane, that is the anterior and posterior portions are there, then we'll see brain like this. This is called as a frontal secretion. Then we make it in half, then we'll get brain in this way, we call it as a mid-sagittal plane. I hope you understood now how various planes shows different things, and on that basis these are used particularly when X-rays are there, particularly we call it as a CAT scan, that is this CAT scan are the computerized tomographic CT scan we call. So this CT scan computerized tomography is where these X-rays are taken at different planes simultaneously, and then they make it as a 3D image of it, and this 3D image will show the changes, because if something is there at some particular place, we do not know. So what CT scan will do is, it will cross it with a very small difference, and it will go on cutting in one direction, then second direction. So it will use different planes, and accordingly will get a variety of images, so that if there is some tumor is there, we will able to understand, or some problem is there, somebody will able to understand. Then next is body cavity, and the next other areas. So what are the body cavities? These are the spaces within the body that help to protect, separate and support the internal organs. So what are various body cavities? We have got various body cavities. First one is the dorsal body cavity, that is located near the dorsal surface of the body, and it has got two subdivisions. One is called as a cranial cavity, and another is known as a vertebral column. The cranial cavity is formed by the cranial bones, and it contains brain in that, while the vertebral canal is formed by the bones of the vertebral column and contains the spinal cord. Now what is cavity? If you have seen, you have studied it earlier, we know that in brain also and spinal cord also, and even outside that the fluid is flowing, that is we call it as a cerebrospinal fluid. That cerebrospinal fluid is flowing into a cavity, okay, and this is causing variety of activities. So these three layer of protective tissues, they are present like meninges, and they are lining the dorsal body cavity, and in that this fluid is there, this fluid is doing protection and many other functions it is having. Then so this is what cavity, that is first cavity, yellow colored, you can see, that is cranial cavity, okay, it holds the brain, it is formed by the skull. Then next is vertebral or spinal column, it contains spinal cord, it is formed by the vertebral column, and meninges lines the dorsal body cavity. Then next is ventral body cavity, okay, or anterior we can say. There are thoracic cavity, it is above the diaphragm. If this is, see, this is the diaphragm. Above the diaphragm, this sky blue colored one, that is the cavity. In that, what are the things? Thoracic cavity above the diaphragm, and next is abdominopelvic cavity, that is this color. So this blue color and somewhat peach color you can see. So these two colors are there. They are having two cavities. One is the thoracic cavity, and the lower one is the abdominopelvic cavity. Now here this diaphragm is the large dome shaped muscle. It is a skeletal muscle. This is a diaphragm, which is playing very important role in the respiratory activity. In also, if we see that there are again variety of small cavities are there in thoracic also. Right pleural cavity, then pleura is there, visceral pleura is there, okay. Then pericardial cavity surrounding heart is there, okay. These all cavities again having fluid filled into it, and they are having a sort of, there are many function of these fluids. It avoids friction, it causes suspension. Example, there is a very delicate glass bottle you are carrying, suppose. Now what you do is, you put it anywhere, there are every chance that it will get broken. But if you suspend it in water, from all side there is a water, you put it in such a way that it will not go into bottom, it will not remain on top or sideways. Then from all side, if the water is there, all the strokes will be taken by the water, and the bottle will be safe. So similarly, it provides this kind of safety. It will not allow friction whenever particularly movements are there. Example, during respiration, during heart pumping, whatsoever movements are there, because of this lubrication type of activity, friction will not be there. So serous membranes are there, which are lining the cavity. They are making the lines of the cavity. So thin slippery membrane lines of the body cavities, they do not open to the outside. Parietal layer lines wall of the cavity. Visceral layer will cover the viscera within the cavities, and as I told you, they will reduce the friction and they will give the protection. Then next is the ventral body cavities. I told you about these cavities, and what are the various organs which are present. We have seen that in thoracic cavity, lungs are there, heart is there. In abdominopelvic cavity, there is all the GIT there, liver is there, spleen is there, gallbladder is there. So all most of the organs are there, they are packed into it. In pelvic cavity, there is a urinary bladder, portion of the large intestine, and female and male reproductive structure. They are present in the abdominal, rather pelvic cavity, we can say. So these are various cavities which are there in the body. This is one of the section which has taken through mediastinum. It is a broad median portion between the lungs that extends from the sternum to the vertebral column. Okay, you can imagine the most anterior portion of that is the sternum, and the most posterior is the vertebral column, and in between whatsoever structures are there. So it starts with the sternum. You can see this is anterior portion, posterior portion. In anterior there is a sternum, in posterior there is a vertebral column, and when we take transverse section, we call it as a transverse sections like that. So what we'll get when we make the transfer means we are cutting it exactly there. So we'll get sternum, and so what are the things which are there? We can see lungs over here. We can see heart in between. In heart again various structures are there, ventricles, aorta, veins, etc. Then lungs, then vertebral column we can see, and all these fluid filled cavities, muscles, etc. we can see. Okay, then ribs are there side by side. So these are what we can see, and we can see the cavities which are there. So this is what thoracic cavity is there. These are the portions of the thoracic cavities. I will not go into more details of it. Then abdominopelvic, these are the portions of the abdomen. It starts from the diaphragm, inferior to diaphragm. Whatsoever structures are there, we all call them as there. Upper is the abdominal cavity, and just at the level of your what we call it as just umbilical cord area is there. Below that is a pelvic cavity. Okay. So this is abdominal, and lower is a pelvic, where in abdominal GIT and liver and spleen, etc., gallbladder, etc. are there. while in pelvic cavity some of the large intestine, rectum, urinary bladder and the male or female sex organs are there, they will be there. So these are various membranes are there, these are, we call them as a serous membranes. They will cover the viscera within the thoracic and abdomen. Viscera is the portion which is inner portion. Okay, in whatsoever portion is there inside this cavity, we call it as a viscera. Whatsoever packed inside that, we call it as there within the thoracic and abdominal cavity, and it also lies in the walls of the thorax and abdomen. In serous membrane, there is a parietal layer. It is with the walls of the cavities. Visceral layer covers and adheres to the viscera within the cavities, and the serous fluid will be passing through these two layers. Thus, it reduces friction and allow viscera to slide somewhat during movement. Already I told you this function, that it reduces function. Example, lungs and heart in all cases. So this serous membrane includes pleura, pericardium and peritoneum. These are serous membranes are there. The pleural membrane surrounds the lungs. Visceral pleura clings the surface of the lungs. Parietal pleura lines the chest wall. Okay. Then pericardium is the serous membrane of the pericardial cavity. Visceral pericardium covers the surface of the heart, while parietal, here the names are same in all cases. Visceral is attached to that organ, parietal is attached, there is a gap in between that, and the outer one is there which is attaching to the wall of the chest or abdomen. Similarly, visceral peritoneum and parietal peritoneum. Then pleura and pericardial cavities are there. These cavities are having, we have seen all these organs into it. Then peritoneum, what it is, visceral and parietal peritoneum, in that serous membranes are there, as we have seen it earlier. And because of this fluid, these are doing many jobs. They are preventing the jerks, they are preventing the harm, and they are important for friction. Many other functions they are carrying. Then next are quadrants, abdominopelvic regions and the quadrants. They are described on the basis, what is done is, this is what abdominal pelvic. So what we do is, we are making lines into it. Okay, the person is upright. These two bones, we call them as a collarbone. Below that is the chest portion or thoracic portion. The umbilical region is there. The portion near stomach, we call it as, or just above the stomach, we call it as a epigastric stomach, epigastric region. And these are divided accordingly. So what are these? Epigastric region, okay, is a central one. Now on your you can just while sitting over there, you make this total 2 plus 2 4 lines. Okay, what are these two? Just near right and left breast, you start one line reaching to almost your umbilical cord or below pelvic area, go up to that. Then these are two lines you have made, and then second two lines you are making. One is keeping this umbilical region, that is belly, that is exactly in center. You make one line below it and one line above it. So basically you are making all this line surrounding this belly. It is a central portion. That portion it is called as the umbilical region. The exactly above that or superior to that, as per our language, we call it as the epigastric region. And then the superior right to that, we'll call it as a right hypochondric region. And Now how it will be used? When somebody describes liver, then it will describe that liver is, this is a liver is in right hypochondric region and it extend up to epigastric region. See, it is in right hypochondrous area and it extend to the epigastric regions. Okay, this is a left hypochondric region. Stomach is in the epigastric region, spleen is in the left hypochondric region. Okay, this is the umbilical region. Then next to that is the right lumbar region, left lumbar region. Then next is hypogastric. Hypo means below, hypogastric region. Then right inguinal region and left inguinal region or iliac region. So these are 9 regions we have got. One more way, this is the since these are the regions and there are 9 or that 4 lines are there which are intersecting each other, that is making regions. One more way is there, that is we divide only 2, just wherever the umbilical region is there, umbilical cord is there, we are having one midline and one transfer line. One is midline, okay, that is starting at the, see this is the sternum, below sternum we are starting to the genitourinary area. We are starting from that and we are making one horizontal one, and these are making, now this is dividing this abdomen into 4 things. Since it is 4, then we call it as a quadrant. So right upper quadrant, right or left upper quadrant, right lower quadrant and left lower quadrant. So this is the place, this is how the tissues are described. Example, liver is in what? Right upper quadrant. Then this is the appendix, we can see here. Appendix is in the right lower quadrant, or rather what we can say, ileocecal, that is ileum and cecum. Okay, its joint is in a right lower quadrant. Then this is the left lower quadrant where it is reaching to rectum, that is large intestine, and this is the left upper quadrant. So these are the quadrants which are explained, these are the quadrants which indicates the area of that particular things. Where it is used, I told you at many places. When you have to describe any organ, suppose you have to write an anatomy of any organ, any tissue, then you can write it accordingly where you should use this without using in front, back, upper, lower, like that you have to use, or right side, left side, we are not using it. Then second is particularly it is used during what we call it, if you have heard this word many times somewhere in those who have having you know habit to watch this crime series like CID etc., then here the word is used post-mortem. We call it as a autopsy. Okay, autopsy is the post-mortem examination of the body and dissection of the internal organ to confirm or determine the cause of death. So in that they explain that what was the problem. Example, somebody is died because of the bullet, then the doctor will write where the bullet was, in this upper quadrant or lower quadrant, okay, like that. Then if it is stabbing, then again where it was there. If it is poisoning, then what kind of area got changed because of the poison, and accordingly they will put it accordingly, and thus it is there. So that language will use again when you are writing the anatomy paper, you have to write this. Then medical imaging, I told you various ways by which it is we try to understand the internal structures of the body. So it is a specialized branch of anatomy and physiology. It is essential for the diagnosis of many disorders. Many of you have seen it, many of you, it is called as a radiography. It includes X-ray. There are many imaging techniques nowadays are available, and they are allow physicians to check inside the body what are the anatomical abnormalities are there, and because of that what physiological changes are occurring. So we can see these, what are these? See, this is the first one, that is called as a X-ray, that is a 2D image, 2D, that is 2-dimensional one, that is only from one side we can see it. It is called as a radiography or X-ray radio. It has problem is it has got poor resolution of soft tissues, and it is only hard tissues like bone can be there. And if we have to see it, then we have to use some in inorganic chemistry. You will learn this. We call them as a radio opaque agent. So the agent which are radio opaque, they will be not allowing. They will behave like bone. Okay, and this X-rays then will be taken so that it will be understanding. Then I told you about CT scan, that is computed tomography scan. It is a moving X-ray beam, and it takes in various sections. Multiple scans are used, and it makes the 3D image, and it takes at a small intervals. So continuously it go on taking X-ray, and that to different planes. You have seen various planes now: sagittal, mid sagittal, then transverse plane, isn't it, frontal plane. So these all various planes are used by a machine, and it is rotating X-ray, and it takes it. Then digital subtraction angiography, that is used for detection of presence of any kind of clot inside. This is the heart. These are the coronary arteries which are supplying blood to heart, and in that, if anything, any clot is there, that it will not appear red, it will be radio opaque, it will be there. It will be injected into blood vessel, and the images are compared with the computer program. The image of blood vessel is shown on a monitor, and then we call this as angiography. Then ultrasound is a technique where high frequency sound waves are there. They are emitted by handheld devices. It is a safe, it is a non-invasive and painless procedure. The image or sonogram is displayed on the video monitor. Earlier it was used for fetal ultrasound and examination of pelvic and abdominal organ, heart and blood flow through various. This one. हाँ अबरार एक 5 मिनट है ना. हाँ हाँ आ जाओ कैबिन में. How? Then one more way is magnetic resonance imaging, that is used, that is very popularly called as MRI. Body is exposed to high energy magnetic field. The protons are bombarded, and on that the radio waves are used to generate an image with the video monitor. It cannot be used in the patient with metal in their body, because it has got this magnetic resonance, and it can affect. It reveals the fine details within the soft tissues, so it gives very colorful diagram with different things. Then one more thing is there, that is called as a PET, that is positron emission tomography scan. The substance that emits positively charged particles, they are injected into body. There is a collision with the negatively charged electrons in the tissue that releases the gamma rays. The camera detects the gamma rays, and computer generates the image which is displayed on the monitor. So this is how we have seen various sections, various planes, various anatomical positions. Now if you have any difficulty, then you can ask.